Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's getting ready for a awesome... Wait. I think that would be a little distracting if I left those. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Matt with Gear Focus. Hope everybody's staying safe out there and getting excited for a holiday weekend. Wanted to throw out a video to those who have never attempted to photograph fireworks before. It's definitely something fun. I've done it a handful of times in the past. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I've gotten some pretty cool shots. I'll show you some of the stuff that I have gotten over the years. I'll show you some gear that I use, some helpful tips and camera settings. So without further ado, let's roll that intro and let's get started. Okay, so first thing that you want is you're going to want to have a camera that has manual mode. I have the 1DX Mark II right here, but any camera, it doesn't need to be an expensive camera. In fact, you can even use cell phones like an iPhone. All you would have to do is download an app that allows you to manually control your shutter speed and your aperture. So that's the first thing, and the main thing that you need is a camera that can shoot manual mode. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to first set your shutter speed to between 3 seconds and 15 seconds. Now, shooting fireworks is an experiment because you have these fireworks going off and they're emitting light through your sensor into your camera. And what you're going to also be affected by is ambient light in your scene. So let's say that you're in a city scene, right? You have buildings, lights, maybe there's a festival going on. There's a lot of other lights in your foreground or on the sides and background, wherever, that is going to be coming into your sensor as well too, all that light. So you're gonna have to experiment with this. You can also merge photos and post. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna set your shutter speed to a longer shutter. Okay, so again, between about 3 seconds to 15 seconds is my default. I set my aperture to a higher aperture number, which allows a larger depth of field so that you're getting everything in foreground and the fireworks in focus, if that's what you want. Again, an aperture, you can definitely play around with that. But usually I'll start at about an f8, f11, all the way up to full f22. So that's the second thing, is your aperture. So once you have your aperture and your shutter speed set, initially, again, I would just start at f22 or f11 to f22 and an exposure time or shutter speed of 3 seconds to 15 seconds. It's a good starting point. And you're gonna have to experiment with this. Now, if your camera has the ability to just shoot raw, 1000% definitely shoot in RAW. That's going to give you a lot more control in post-editing once you pull it into an editing software like Lightroom to bring down the highlights and to bring up shadows and not gain a lot of noise. So shoot in RAW, that's the next tip that I wanted to say, is shoot in RAW. The next thing after that, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set your focusing to manual focus. Do not have your camera on autofocus. Have your camera on manual focus and set it to infinity. So that is the next step, is to set your camera to infinity focus. The next thing is experiment. You're going to want to change your shutter speed from 3 seconds to 10 seconds to 5 seconds. You're going to want to change your aperture. You're going to want to change your composition of what things that you have in the foreground and what things you do not. Maybe you want to use a zoom lens, like a 200mm lens, and you just want to capture that photograph in the sky. Next thing you're going to want is you're going to want to make sure that you have a tripod or a flat surface to make sure that your camera is steady. So I have this little, I think these are referred to as Z tripods or Z bases. You can also use, like, I have the switch pod that I use for vlogging, which is great, and then I can just flip it down and boom, I'm into, having a tripod, and I can set this anywhere. And then clearly you have like your flexible Joby style, wrap it around and attach it to like railings and such. So anything, but I have even used just putting it on a rock or a ledge somewhere, or even I'll take my camera backpack and I'll turn it upside down and I'll just set my camera on top of my backpack. So anything to keep your camera steady. Now, another key to keeping it steady is because you have your shutter open longer and it's allowing light to come in. So any movement of the camera whatsoever is going to create a blurry photograph. So not only do you want your camera in a stationary position on a tripod or a flat surface, but you do not want to trigger and take your picture with the shutter button using your hand. So you're going to want to put your timer on your camera. You might have to look up your manual online if you don't know how to turn on the timer, but there should be a 2-second timer. What that allows you to do then is that allows you to click the shutter and have the picture take it 2 seconds later so that the camera can settle down, so that any shake, I mean, you can see that like I'm shaking this camera, the camera is on a surface, but even just pushing that, if I didn't have that timer on there, it would create a blurry photo. So put the timer on 2 seconds, or you can use a shutter release like one of these I got from Polaroid that allows you to plug this into the camera and allows you to use this to control the shutter remotely. So that way you're not moving the camera when you're clicking the shutter and taking the picture. So those are some basics. Now, I have some little lights here, and the reason I have these LumeCube lights, in fact, this is the new LumeCube Mini, which we did a review on. So if you want to check that, I will put the link up in the video now so that you can check out the review. This is a very cool light. And what this allows you to do is kind of light paint the scene that you're in. So let's say that you have like a church tower, or maybe it's even you want to have somebody in the photograph with the fireworks behind them. You can use a stationary light like this to light them up. Now that's going to produce another situation to where you're going to have to experiment of the exposure of the fireworks versus the exposure of the person in the frame. Okay guys, so that's a basic overview of how you want to get started. We're also going to leave a link in the description below to a blog where we have written out all of these tips. So definitely click on that blog as a reference. In fact, you can print it out and bring it with you if you're going to see some fireworks and you want to attempt at photographing these fireworks this weekend. Print out that blog. Use that as a reference sheet so you can play around with the different settings. It is really a lot of fun to shoot fireworks because it's a lot of experimenting as far as what effects you're gonna get. The other tip that I want to point out is shoot a ton of photos. Change your settings, see how they come out. Keep shooting, keep shooting. We're in a digital age, it's cheap. Just shoot a lot of pictures and experiment with your settings. And shoot early on in the fireworks show, because later towards the end and the grand finales and things like that, there's going to be all kinds of smoke in the sky. So if you want to get a picture of a firework that is just the firework on a dark black sky, then you're going to want to shoot a lot of those photos that you want, maybe close-ups with a zoom early on in the show before there's a ton of smoke all over the sky. The smoke, however, can create some very cool effects like this photo right here that I got, which I absolutely loved. I think it was one of my favorite. So you can get some really cool effects with the smoke. And then also remember, composition, put some interesting things in the composition in the foreground. Again, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed these tips. If you have any other tips on shooting fireworks, please leave them in the description below. Hit like, hit subscribe. 100% free, won't cost you a dime to do that. Helps us out on the channel. And as always, Gear Focus is here to help feed your passion. Peace.